welcome to the Prince for the Dean State edition of the PrinceCast. I'm Michael Medeiros, and joining me today is columnist Sophia Lemaire.
Hi.
Today we'll be discussing Dean State, sort of what we think about the fact that most papers for most classes, humanities classes at least, are all due on the same day, whether that's a good idea, what the impacts would be of reforming the system, and also we'll be discussing briefly Sophia's column, poem column on Friday, about Dean State, inspired by the story of Paul Revere and his midnight ride. So first of all, we know that at a lot of schools, they don't have a single date where everything's due. But sort of, Sophia, we were talking just now what we think the impacts would be of changing the system, and I don't know, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that it's good that we have a longer study period than most universities because we also have shorter semesters than a lot of places, and I think it can be really useful to have that extra time to go back over things, because during the semester it can just be getting assignments done. It can get you don't have a lot of time for review during the semester.
Definitely, and I know both of us are in the sciences, so you were saying that gives you more time for the papers, right?
So, I'm an engineer, and so having papers due on Dean's Day and then having exams after is really helpful, because having them during the same time period would be really difficult.
And of course the alternative would be to sort of have exams and papers, sort of spread over the same period, maybe not 3 weeks, maybe a 2-week period or something. A lot of universities only have a week and a half. But as you were saying, that could lead to more pressure on the people who have both exams and papers. But again, moving on to issue of motivation, what do you think the fact that there is a Dean's Day does for people's motivation?
I think that it kind of helps people get into the mindset they need to get into to get all your papers done, because I feel like between when classes get out and Dean's Day, people are in the Dean's Day mode, and I think it can help with focus to just have a deadline.
Right. The other thing is that some classes, I know a lot of language classes, some science classes still meet during the first week of reading period. How do you feel about that?
I don't think that classes should meet during reading period. Yeah, I think it's definitely set up so that you're supposed to have that time to study and do your work and things like that. So I think it would be really good for classes to try to get done before when they're supposed to.
Definitely, I hope our professors are listening. And then moving on to Sophia's poem column from Friday. I know you, well, why don't you tell our listeners who may not have read it, sort of the theme of the poem?
It's just a parody of Longfellow's Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, only Paul is rushing through the town because he needs to tell them their information so he can get back to finish his papers for Dean's State.
And sort of one thing that this poem does is it helps put the issues of Dean's State in perspective. I know you were saying a lot of people take tons of pressure, put a lot of pressure on themselves for Dean's State.
Yeah, it's just supposed to talk about how it's not a matter of life and death, I guess. Getting your papers done, work hard, but it's not really worth getting too stressed out about. I think it can be hard to remember that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for listening to this Dean State PrinceCast. I hope you all, wish all of you the best of luck on your Dean State work, and to any parents who may be listening, also wish you a happy Mother's Day. Thank you, and this will be our last PrinceCast of this semester, so see you in the fall.